You guys, Brendan Fraser is not in Lee Cronin's The Mummy. That was the only thing that could come to me when I was thinking about how to open this review. Jason Blum kept posting this on Twitter, like for weeks before this movie came out. I mean, I get why he was doing it, because he didn't want people to confuse this Mummy with the other Mummy movie that's supposed to be coming out with Brendan and Rachel. But it would just, like, after a while, it got to be kind of funny, and I saw people making fun of it on Twitter. So yeah, just so you know, he's not in this. This is a straight up horror movie, you guys. I don't have my notes prepared at all. I just came home from the theater a little bit ago, and I wanted to just go ahead and sit down, get my thoughts out. Don't really have time to organize my notes. I was surprised to realize, or have my memory refreshed, that Lee Cronin hasn't actually made a ton of movies, but I was pretty impressed with this one. It's not going to make my list of favorites, but I thought it was a pretty well done horror film with some interesting lore and detective-y, investigative stuff that was going on, which I really dug. I liked that a lot. If you haven't seen the trailer, the basic premise is that there's a family living in Egypt, I think Cairo, American family, and their little girl gets kidnapped. And for 8 years, they don't know what's happened to her. And then many years later, she resurfaces, but not in normal form. She's been found inside this sarcophagus type thing after a plane crash. And the family by then is back in the United States. So they bring her home, but she's got a lot of problems. Like, she can't talk, and she's kind of deformed. Her hands are all gnarly and her nails are really long. She has aged. She's no longer a very young child. She's now physically in her teens. And she just exhibits a lot of extremely strange and scary behavior. Like, I don't know that I would have been bringing that person into my home, given the state that they were in and knowing that I would not have the ability to care for them. But of course, if that happened, we wouldn't have a movie. Anyway, the family is dealing with increasingly odd behavior from her, and the husband is digging deeper and trying to find out what happened to her all these years that she was gone. There is a detective in Egypt who is also working the case. And so you go back and forth between what the family here in the US is dealing with and what the detective is uncovering all the way over there in Egypt. And I really liked the blend of those two things, the horror plus the detective-y stuff. I really like investigative things, and I enjoyed seeing how little by little they started to piece together what was behind this event that happened to her. Of course, things come to a very bloody, gnarly, dangerous head, and then there are other events that occur after that, which I was actually kind of satisfied with. This film subverted my expectation in various ways, which I did enjoy. It's not perfect. I can only think of, really off the top of my head, one thing that probably holds this film back from ranking higher for me, but I did like that things didn't always go the way I thought they would. Now, some stuff was a bit tropey and a little predictable, but I liked being surprised by certain events. And the ending, well, by the time the ending is set up for you, I figured that was what was going to happen, but it wasn't anything that I saw coming, and I enjoyed that. As far as the acting, I thought the acting was really good. I felt that the characters of the mother and father did a convincing job at portraying the grief and heartbreak and desolation that a parent who has lost a child would go through, let's say, to kidnapping or to murder. And as a parent, I could completely identify with these sentiments that they had. In some ways, this film reminded me of the movie The Exorcist because, as I mentioned in other discussions before, the thing about The Exorcist that's so terrifying to me, it's not so much the supernatural stuff as it is the feeling of a parent being helpless when their child is in mortal danger or they have a terminal disease and they do not know what they can do to help, or they just absolutely cannot, even if they knew what could be done. So I felt that this film effectively tapped into that sort of emotion as well. I thought also that it was edited very well. The sound design was disturbing at times, just the noises that she was making, and the special effects, which I feel that much of the effects on the girl who is the mummy were probably practical, and they were gross, and there was a lot of gross stuff in this film. If you get squeamish by seeing scenes like someone tearing their skin off, among other things, then you might have a bit of a hard time with this one. There were several moments that I even was like, oh, like that, because it felt like some of these scenes went on a skosh too long. And this ties into probably the main issue I have with this film is that it's a bit on the long side. There are moments that feel kind of repetitive. She's doing something weird. She's exhibiting very odd behavior and strange sounds, and she's very creepy. Like, these are patterns that happen multiple times. And maybe if there's any place to trim, it could be in moments like that. I honestly don't know, because this film does take its time with the story. Things don't really feel rushed. And the director gives the actors time to breathe in this space, in this moment that has been set up for whatever particular scene. So that was something that I did appreciate. However, I was aware of the time. And when I thought this film was going to be done, it wasn't. There was probably 2 more scenes left before it finished. That was the subversion of my expectation, which I'm glad happened, because the way I thought it was going to end felt like it was going to be pretty typical for a horror film. So I was glad to be incorrect about that. I think that if you are fans of gory horror, similar to things like the Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rise. I can't remember if I think he's directing the one that's coming out this year. I actually enjoyed this more than Evil Dead. I'm not huge into Evil Dead. I mean, I'll watch them, but they don't really do much for me. I had more of a connection with this movie than anything I've seen in the Evil Dead movies. And maybe part of that was just the story was more fascinating to me and what the parents were dealing with, in addition to the detective-y aspect of it, which I really dug. So yeah, that was an interesting viewing experience. I don't think I have anything more to say about The Mummy, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up for now, you guys. If you get a chance to check it out, let me know what you think. Alrighty, bye.